announced later tonight around 9 p.m. So we'll continue with the speeches now, and we have Mr. Alex Glumats, who's representing the member for Fowler, Mr. Chris Hayes. Alex Glumats is a well-known and friend of the Serbian community. He also emceed the fundraising evening for the bushfire appeal. So we should applaud and welcome Mr. Alex Glumats. Thank you.
I'm actually not famous because I'm yet to have a Wikipedia page, but I do acknowledge Michael's wonderful gesture, words. I think it's a bit exaggerated. Your Grace, Reverend Fathers, Your Excellencies, Members of Parliament, Councillors and dear friends of the Serbian community, it's an honour to be representing the Federal Member for Fowler, Mr. Chris Hayes, who is unable to grace us with his presence this evening, but he extends his thank you to Sawyer for the invitation and also would like to congratulate them for organising tonight's banquet. Chris has long been a friend of the Serbian community, even prior to becoming a Member of Parliament. As a matter of fact, the very electorate he represents has among the highest Serbian populations in Australia. He's witnessed many wonderful deeds over the years. If you recall, back in 2014, Serbia experienced its worst flooding in more than a century. The Serbian community jumped into action, raised much needed funds for their fellow countrymen and women back in Serbia. Fast forward to 2019, we have witnessed in Australia the worst bushfire season in more than 25 years. Those fires alone have decimated a large portion of New South Wales. Seeing those sad images appear before our very eyes, it breaks the heart. Yet again, the Serbian community, without hesitation, under the auspices of His Grace, started to raise funds, not just money, but to buy vital necessities for our fireys, for the very residents who have lost so much over the years. The very things they built with their bare hands just incinerated. And the Serbian community dug deep, they dug well, and even after the fundraiser, they continued to work hard to go down south to help. When it comes to the Serbian community, Chris appreciates their benevolence, generosity, and also their very will to overcome any obstacle to move forward. In 2013, Chris was a member of a parliamentary delegation that went to Serbia with the aim to improve bilateral ties between Serbia and Australia. A new trade agreement was signed. The trade between Australia and Serbia now is worth more than $70 million. Now, you're probably thinking, why am I talking about this? When Chris was in Serbia, he met with the then Prime Minister of Serbia, Ivica Dačić, and he also met with various other parliamentarians of the Serbian government. And that's the key word. Serbian governments did not exist some 200 years ago. As Minister Hawke has said earlier, Serbia as a nation was under the Ottoman Empire for almost 5 long centuries. Serbia was deprived of its sovereignty, of its own nation to rule, to govern. Serbia not only lost her territory, but also children, wives, husbands. A lot of people lost their lives. The tax in blood, was a saying in Serbian, dranak u krvi. A lot of children were taken away, and enough was enough. In 1804, George Petrovic, who became to be known as Karađorđe Petrovic, the progenitor and the founder of the Karađorđević house, he and many of his fellow chieftains got together in Orašac to start the first Serbian uprising. And that was the first step in the very 30-year revolution, in which we also saw the second Serbian uprising led by Miloš Obrenović from the opposing house. The 15th of February, Sretene Gospodnje, or Candlemas as I say in English, holds a very important place in the Serbian custom and Serbian history. Now we can talk about Serbian history the entire night, because the Serbian history, it's quite vast and voluminous. Going back to the historical phase, Karađorđe led the first uprising, and that lasted for about 9 or 10 years. Serbia endured a lot of losses and also had many victories. In 1815, Serbia became a principality. In 1835, she adopted a first constitution. Now, subsequently, in 1882, she became a kingdom under the Obrenović house. So, as you can see, it took more than 60 years for Serbia to evolve. It was quite painstaking, quite arduous, but they got the job done. Sadly, alas, a lot of lives were lost. We need to revere the past heroes who have lost their lives to give Serbia a new history, a new page. Like I said, the Serbian government was non-existent. And throughout time, she has evolved into a well-respected country in Europe. Now, that's what we need to be thankful about. If it wasn't for their sacrifice, we will not have Serbia as a country. Now, as this is a Serbian event, I would just like to say some words in Serbian, if I may. Vaše preosveštenstvo, časni oci, vaše ekscelencije, odbornici, poslanici i dragi prijatelji srpske zajednice. Meni je velika čast da zastupam gospodina Chris Hayesa, federalnog poslanika za okrug Fowler, koji nažalost ne može da bude ovdje večeras, ali se zahvalio na pozivnici i čestita Soji i Mihajlu što su organizovali večerašnji prijem ili banket. Chris je dugogodišnji prijatelj srpske zajednice i on je očevidac niz njenih dobrih dela. Kao što sam rekao na engleskom, 2014. godine u Srbiji bile su poplave i to su bile najgore poplave zadnjih 100 godina. Pre 2 godine unazad mi smo bili očevidci najkatastrofalnijih požara u Australiji, pogotovo u ovoj državi. I srpska zajednica je ponovo bila izdašna i uspela da pomogne svim tim jadnim ljudima koji su izgubili sve. Chris kao poslanik bio je član jedne parlamentarne delegacije koji su otišli u Maticu u Srbiju da se poboljšaju odnosi između Srbije i Australije. Taj sporazum je bio jako uspešan i tada je Chris više saznao o srpskoj istoriji i on ceni srpsku zajednicu i što su oni jadni iskusili tokom 5 vekova, taj zulum što su oni jadni iskusili. I on kao ovdje u Australiji vide sa svojim očima kako je srpska zajednica doprinela. Oni su bili jako još uvijek uticani na razvoju moderne Australije. I mi moramo da se zahvalimo svim tim junacima, herojima koji su se borili za novu Srbiju. Hoću još jednom da se zahvalim svima vama na vašoj dobrodošlici i da se zahvalim Mihajlu Mijatoviću i čitavoj njegovoj ekipi što su organizovali ovaj banket. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.